Okay. Still 4:59. Oh, officially 5 o'clock. All right. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you for being here. First, we will look at the approval of the minutes from last month. I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Can I get a second?
Aye, you got a second for me.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes approved. We've all had a chance to look at the claims. I will make a motion to approve the claims for the month of December.
I'll make a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Claims approved. New business. The approval of the Crystal Beach rates, which we presented at our meeting last month. But today, we need to make it official. Sorry, I'm digging through my packet to find that. Just to review and to make sure everyone's on the same page. So the general admission for ages 6 and older will be $5 a day. An annual pass for one person, $175. An annual pass for a family of 4, $450. Each additional family member, $110. Discount card, 20 trips to the pool, $85. An annual pass for a senior, 65 and older, $100. Employee pass for City of Madison employees, $100. Water aerobics, $5 a day if you want to go by the day, or you can do a monthly water aerobics for $35. That's 3 separate months of classes and 16 classes per month. For that $35, you get 16 classes. A season pass for the whole summer for water aerobics, $85. No refunds or makeup dates due to inclement weather. Replacement card, if you lose it, is $10. And then the corporate rental cost to rent the pool for a private party is $800 for 2 hours. The renter will pay an additional $20 per hour for lifeguard coverage. So I will make the motion to approve these prices as stated at our last meeting and that I just read for Crystal Beach Aquatic Center.
Second.
Does anyone have any discussion or questions about that before we vote? That was last time when we presented them. We can delay the vote temporarily, but we are going to vote today about it. Scott, would you like to talk anything about that, or just me announce the contract for the campground attendant?
Basically, our campground attendant is a contract person, and their contract expires November of each year. So this is just a new contract for the new campground attendant starting in end of March, running through early November. There's a slight variation on this contract in that I've included an additional $300 per month payment, and we're going to have this person manage our shelter rentals. So if we have somebody who wants to rent a shelter, he's going to put their name on it, make sure there's no conflicts, do the policing of it, and that'll be across the whole park system. So they'll be in charge of the campground, and plus they'll be monitoring the rentals of the shelters that are in each separate park for the additional $300.
Okay, do we need an official motion, all that too, for the contract, do you know?
Yes.
Okay, so we've all seen the contract, and I'll just go ahead and make the motion too that we approve the contract presented to us for the campground attendant for 2024.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Deputy Director report. You're up.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
now
there
we
you go.
can.
An update for 2023 on events in the senior center, and then kind of a brief look ahead for 2024, and you should have that there in your packet. We hosted 12 events for 2023 for a total cost of $76,000. All of that was covered in sponsorships. One of the things for 2024 we want to look at doing is cutting the cost of those events and doing a more comprehensive approach to seek sponsors across the whole parks department. So not just for events, but for little league teams and just different projects and things that we have going on. Last year, 10 of those events were already planned when I came on board. So we were just running with those, with the addition of the Princess Tea and the Jamboree. And this year we're hoping to change some of those up a little bit and create an event committee to get some more community input on the events that we do. We're also working on the history of all the parks, so we'd really like to connect some of the events to some of the history of our park and our branding with one generation to the next, and really highlight some of the people from the past and some of that history element to some of those events. The senior center there, you can see we had quite a busy year in just a few months there. We renovated the center for the cost is there. The Lifetime Resources grant that we got for $11,000, we used $5,000 of the senior fund that we had, hired a senior center coordinator, doubled the hours of operation, added day trips once a month. There were 5 of those to the end of the year. Started the Seniors on the Move newsletter, which you have in your packet, the new one for January and February. Added new activities. We brought the Lifetime Resources congregate meals back 2 times a week. They're on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Brought in monthly educational classes by partnering with Penn Shell and Company Independent Living. She did 2 of those the end of the year, November and December, and then is already working with Diane at RSVP to offer those monthly. They're going to collaborate on those and have some exciting things in store. There is an article on that in your newsletter as well. We moved the dances from the Brown Gym back to the Senior Center. We've had several issues with the lift at Brown Gym with the bands, and it's $800 to $1,000 every time they have to even come look at the lift. So with the number of people attending those dances, there was plenty of room in the back of the Senior Center to do that in the renovated space. It's also more accessible there. There's usually about 35 people there. We opened office space for RSVP, and they did get moved in the end of the year in December. Diane is loving it over there, so they're already adding new volunteers all the time. And then the seniors sponsored their first event. They sponsored the Princess Tea that we had. I did just a brief look ahead here for 2024. Just continue to build and promote all the programming that's available. Build on our partnership with RSVP to provide better access for anyone 55 plus to find and participate in local volunteer opportunities. We do need a van or 2 for the day trips that they're doing. We've had to rent those, and we'd like to keep those as cheap as possible for the seniors, so it'd be real nice to have our own vans. We are going to open the building up for public use when it's not in use by the seniors, just to raise some income to put back in their funds. We've got $300 a day for Saturday or Sunday, and then $75 an hour for weeknights at a 2-hour minimum. And then look for other ways to generate income for them. They're not allocated money through council. Anything in their fund it's a NRO. Yeah. And then we do have a Jackson Snelling concert and dance at Hunter Hall January 26th. And there is a little flyer in your packet there as well. So busy few months, and we're excited to just keep building on the same momentum that we've started in 2023 and roll that over into 2024. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
So how did the Jackson Snelling event come about? Like, is this taking place of our regular senior dance for that month?
Mm-hmm. It is on a Friday night.
And do we have someone that with a contact? Did they come to us? Did we go to them? Like, how did that happen?
I know him. He did some concerts for us in North Vernon when I worked for the city of North Vernon and knew him personally. So just ask him if he'd be interested in doing it.
And you moved it to Crystal Beach anticipating a bigger crowd than normal because it's him?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, have you given any thought to the acoustics at Crystal Beach? And
Lisa told
concerts?
me that the New Year's Eve party, that the acoustics were not as bad as she anticipated, that it sounded pretty good. I was not there, so I can't attest to that. But they had a band in there for that, and she said it went well.
Okay.
She did give me a name too for a local guy to check into sound, get a second quote on some sound panels in that space. But we have not done that yet.
And have you decided how you would create your event committee? Like, are you gonna ask for volunteers? Are you gonna publicize it? You're just gonna use people that help you normally? Have you given much thought to that? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I had several people in mind just to tag that I know that are involved already, and I mean, it's,
But that would be something that, say, somebody who's watching today would be interested in. They could
sure,
contact
they
you.
can reach out,
If they want
absolutely.
to be on that event
Yeah.
committee. And that event, you're talking the parades, movie, everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
just get more input and ideas from other people.
Sure, I think that's a great idea. Anybody else have any questions, discussion?
No, I'd like to know how it goes after Mr. Snelling performs, you know, like what his suggestions would be, how to improve the space for such an event.
For future things we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have made a few adjustments, just people using it. We put motion sensors on the lights and
Dimmer
dimmers,
switches.
and just as we use it more and more, we'll see those little things that need done.
I guess the electricity's fine, I mean, it's brand new, up to date, you know, there's no.
Yeah.
Should be good to go.
Tweaking, we just need to tweak some things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All right,
Mr.
thanks.
Scott Klein, the director's report. We're ready for you.
Thank you. I put together a little summary of our programming over the summer. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but we had for summer programming 61 separate activities, and an activity is an opportunity to sign up for a class. So as an example, for swim lessons, we had 24 separate opportunities, so that counts as 24 activities. We had a couple art classes, and so each one of those counts as a separate activity. So we had 61 activities, including the Jamboree and the Halloween Festival. We had approximately 2,500 participants from our programming over the summer and the fall. And I think that was pretty successful in spite of some of the rough starts with baseball early on. And really for us coming up, we'll talk about the look ahead for programming here in a little bit. But I think it was a pretty strong year for us programmatically, and we're only going to build on that for this year. So we're really excited about 2024. You also have a campground summary. This hasn't really changed since the last meeting. I just wanted to include it as a year-end report. The numbers really, like I said, haven't really changed. So net revenue for the campground for 2023 was $139,153.42, compared to net of $62,446.59 in 2022. So our variance is $76,706.83. As a reminder, in 2022, we had about $48,500 in additional spending. That makes up the bulk of the variance. So from a revenue standpoint, we were still about $25,000 ahead this year, and hoping to really market the campground for 2024 and increase that as well. We went live yesterday for the 2024 reservations. We had an issue with our credit card processing company that caused much angst and strife. We got that fixed. Our reservation total for yesterday was just a little bit north of $41,000. So that really is predominantly about 4 weekends that are booked for 2024. So we had a pretty good day, the very first day. So the system is fine now, it's up and running. We're still calling and working through a couple of issues with the reservation piece of it. But for the most part, everybody seems to be happy and comfortable that they got the spots they wanted. And hopefully that won't keep recurring. So we'll keep an eye on that. Sunrise summary is in your packet as well. Second page is really the one that you really want to look at. If you look at kind of the middle box, fiscal year 2023 to date, this will be year end. Revenue of $519,127.85. Expenses of $557,229.84 for a net loss of $38,101.99. Comparison to the year before, our net loss last year was $72,455. So we have a $34,000, $353 delta improvement from the year before. Still not where we want to be. There were some additional expenses this past year with people leaving and paying out benefits to them that hit the bottom line. It wouldn't have changed the fact that we lost money, but we wouldn't have lost as much. And I think selling gift certificates and passes in December certainly helped that number. We had almost $22,000 in sales in December. Last year we had 1,500. So that definitely helped us with the bottom line for this year. All the categories were up this year. Cart fees, green fees, food and beverage, and pro shop were all up. On the right-hand side, you can see what those variances are. Cart fees were up 14%. Green fees were up 29%. Food and beverage was up 30%, and the pro shop was up 10%. So all positive indicators, all good news. The next page is kind of the bad of the good news. We've completed year-end inventory and evaluated against purchases and sales. And on the far right is our food and beverage costs. Now, I will say that we did not have an opening inventory, so there may have been stock that was there that wasn't accounted for. Although, if you look at our closing inventory, if it's consistent, it's minimal. We have less than $2,000 in any one of our inventory lines. So even if we had opening inventory of a couple $1,000, these percentages wouldn't really change too much. So just as I'll take out my food service degree and give you the explanation of food cost and beverage costs, to calculate it, opening inventory plus purchases minus closing inventory equals your cost of goods sold. Divide your cost of goods sold by your revenue, that gives you your percentage. So if you're looking at food cost, typically in a for-profit restaurant, you should be about 30 or 33%. Every dollar you bring in, 30 cents or 33 cents should go towards the cost of the food that you purchase. We're at 97%. We're 3 times higher than we should be. For our beverage cost, which is sodas, Gatorade, water, we are at 31%, which is pretty close to where we should be. That's fairly comfortable. Our beer cost is about 49%, which is about 15 to 18% too high. And our liquor cost is 54%, which is about the same, about 20, 25% too high. So there's work to do in that area for next year. We've already worked on kind of reevaluating our charges and how we can work on improving these. So there'll be improvements in that area next year. Any questions on that?
Scott, I think it's good improvement, even though you're not there yet, but I think all this going up, and then obviously the food, what are the 2 or 3 things I think we need to focus on to keep the expenses down and the revenue going up at the golf course?
Well, I think the first thing is, right now, we buy most of our food stock retail. So we take a lot of trips to Kroger, and we're buying like you would General Public. I set up an account this past fall with US Foods so we can buy wholesale. We have to have, there's a minimum case order, so we're trying to work out the logistics of how we receive an order and then be able to ship it out where we need to. I think that's really gonna be important as we look at Crystal Beach as well, with concessions there. We can aggregate our sales, our purchases through US Foods and have a wholesale distributor versus a retail. So that's a big piece of that. I think that's substantial money. We need to work on portion control and consistency. Didn't have a lot of that all year long, so we kind of caught up a little bit towards the end of the year, but there was no really portion control. So, I don't think anybody even evaluated what it costs to put together an item. How much does it cost us to make a ham sandwich, and then what do we charge for it? So we have to do the upfront, what does it cost us, and then our selling price is based upon our cost versus what we think the numbers should be. And so that's the shift that we're going to be going into next year. Those two things alone will make a dramatic difference. And quite frankly, our beer numbers are way too low. So we will increase the cost of the beer. Wine and alcohol is where it should be, but beer prices will have to go up for next year, and we'll make that adjustment first thing. So we already have those numbers plugged in, and we should be coming in about 30%, 31% next year for beer costs. So I think those items itself will right the ship fairly quickly.
So you're saying you're going to consolidate our food orders with Rucker concessions,
Yes.
Crystal Beach concessions, and the golf course, one big pot, and then we'll distribute it to
Yes,
and cut down on the local run to Kroger pick stuff up.
correct.
Okay.
The other thing we're going to do is with Crystal Beach, we're gonna expand our menu at Crystal Beach for more healthy options. We'll have salads, we'll have sandwiches, we'll have some other options that typically we wouldn't have. We're gonna make those at the golf course. Crystal Beach will buy them from the golf course, and then we will resell them down there. So we've got the capacity there, we've got the people to make the items. That way we absorb the profit. We're not going out and buying it at market value and then making $1 on something. We'll be able to make it at cost, purchase it at cost, and then get an uptick. So we'll have increased sales at the golf course. We'll have profit at Crystal Beach for concessions as well. So that's kind of the thinking going in on how we're going to approach concessions and food service for this year.
So just so I'm clear, so if the golf course is gonna be preparing food and selling it to Crystal Beach, are they selling it at cost?
There'll be a little profit. We have to cover labor when we do that, so it won't be just at cost. There'll be an increase to them, but it won't be the same as we receive if we're out buying at retail.
But it'll be nominal enough that they are able to still make a profit down there too?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Not totally surprised by the numbers, but with the, if we're able to sort of quote-unquote right the ship, that would cut into or decrease some of this deficit that we have already, as our numbers are already trending upward.
Right.
And when I joined the golf board, I said that the kitchen was gonna be a big key for us, so I'm glad to see that we're getting
Yeah.
that.
And I think
Clear
there's
way.
other ways too. We recognize at the golf course, especially during the day, that people who are playing aren't gonna stop and really have a meal. So they wanna run in, grab something and go. And so our grab and go options have to change as well. So, it's great for us to throw them a hot dog, but, we can put sandwiches in a cooler, we can put salads in a cooler, we can put wraps in a cooler, where they can walk in, grab something out of the cooler, pay for it, and go back on the golf course. So for us, it's really about expanding the options, understanding what the need is and the time constraints that happen, and make sure that when people come in, that they can get what they need to go and head back out
Yes,
and give
and
them some
having
options.
having them ready to go.
Exactly.
Because
yeah.
when you're on the turn, you don't want to sit there and wait 5 minutes for
Right,
your
right.
burger to get cooked.
Yeah,
So
so those options need to expand, and so we're gonna take care of that as well this year. The other thing, that's really, I think, a big piece of this, every year, we've been spending about $65,000 on chemicals. So that's fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, and those were always pre-purchased in the fall in order to get some rebates. And then the bill always came due in June, and it was a $65,000 hit. So we negotiated with the supplier this year that we captured a pre-purchase of about 20 or 22,000 where we can maximize rebates, and then the rest of it we're going to purchase as we need it. So we believe that that's going to probably cut back on the chemical usage and expenses from going from 65 to probably $50,000. So that's $15,000 in savings that we'll have from not just overbuying. We've been using chemicals all year that have been 2 or 3 years old. So coming forward this year, we're going to be much more purchasing on time and when we need it versus having a stockpile of things that just sit around. So we'll be more purposeful and attentive to those costs, which are significant for the golf course.
Sort of being the de facto golf board member up here, I would say that we're all very hopeful and positive that the course is turning in the right direction. It's a shame that we still ran a deficit this year because we were pretty hopeful again that we were going to at least make $1, and we didn't.
Yeah.
But going in the right direction, it sounds like we have a plan, and I think anybody with a realistic attitude toward the golf course would know that we had kind of dug ourselves a pretty deep hole, and it was going to be pretty difficult to fix in a short amount of time. So a little bit more patience there, and I think we're going to be okay.
And I'd like to also add that, we're really going to be tracking true costs. We've had, with the way the accounting has been set up with the NROs, we haven't been able to track all the exact expenses the way they should be. This year's going to be completely different. So we've got all the detail that we need. We're going to be tracking invoices essentially daily when we get them. We'll know where we are and making sure that we'll have a true cost of what it takes to operate that golf course at the end of the year. Good, bad, or indifferent, we'll know what the true cost is. And that helps us make decisions about, how much we advertise, how much we charge, what kind of uses we have, trying to get more events, more sponsors. All of those will help inform what the costs. We want to make $1. We're happy making $1 on the golf course. So our goal is to increase revenue, cut back on expenses, manage our labor, which is our biggest cost, and still have a great product.
So I would say on my time on the board, that has probably been the biggest improvement, is just the amount of analysis that has gone in into how to best make a profit, anywhere from the food and beverage to consideration of what kind of golf carts we should use, how can we maximize profits or minimize damage on the golf carts, or looking towards the future to improving the course, looking at data analysis on who's coming and going from the golf course and how we can attract more people, how we can use online services to make sure that we're maximizing just not local play but out of town play as well. And I've got to say that if we could keep making these improvements, that we should be able to make a profit pretty soon.
Yep, I agree. Any other questions? So it's a new year, so it's like a New Year's resolution. We're to do a little look ahead and kind of give you a $20,000 foot overview of what we're looking for this coming year. Talk a little bit about some challenges and some things we're working on, bigger picture. So programming, again, is going to be key for us. We're not only looking at our standard programming packages, which is baseball, softball, football, basketball, volleyball, those kinds of things. It's also about trying to find new trends and new things to do. Whitney's been very, very strong. We're looking at a swim team associated with Crystal Beach, working with the Y in Switzerland County to try and figure out how we do that. We're reaching out to Canaan Academy. They don't really have the ability for athletic programming out there, so we're having communications with them, trying to figure out how we can help them and help bring students in to the park system for recreation, on top of a myriad of just new ideas and new thoughts of things that we're going to do, whether we're looking at, maybe a triathlon for kids or bike races or just some out-of-the-box thinking that we really haven't done before. So we have a lot of ideas. We're going to have an internal planning session here probably next 2 or 3 weeks and start ironing out a lot of what programming is going to be for this year. Marketing and branding goes hand in hand with that. We have our new logo and our new tagline. We received the first round of review for the logos for Crystal Beach Sunrise and the campground. We're waiting on some revisions from our comments there before we present those to you all. So we're excited about that. The marketing and the branding is critical for our success with creating revenue for all of our NROs. And quite frankly, I think it's really critical for people to understand which parks, where you go, what you do, not only for our citizens, but for the visitors as well. So I think the new branding campaign will really help identify what you do at what park, and really create more interest for our park. So I'm very, very excited about that. The whole team is very excited about that. As with everybody else, personnel is a challenge. As we look and grow, the issue for us is always going to be hiring the right people and having enough. We're starting to work right now on hiring swim instructors and lifeguards for Crystal Beach, and we've got ads out in the paper. We're going to have another ad coming out soon with on social media about trying to find retirees and semi-retirees for people to fill in spaces for us. So personnel is a challenge. The busier we get, the more we expand, the more we need people to help execute our programming. And so that's a big component, so we continue to work on that. I briefly mentioned accounting. That's going to be another thing across all of our parks. We're going to be accounting and identifying costs for each park independently, so we know where we have big issues and where we don't have big issues. So that'll be real time. We'll have it every time we do invoicing. We'll be entering that information in, so we'll be able to track costs per park, all 27, 28 coming up of all of our parks, and I know where our expensive parks are and what we can do to help reduce those costs in those areas, really target them more. We've got several planning projects in the pipeline right now. Sunrise Golf Course, the golf course architect and the gentleman who flew the drone were out in December. We've got that data now. We're starting to work on revising the plans and tweaking that with the topographical information. So that's underway. Same thing with Rucker Sports Complex. The kind of the big master plan is really a big schematic design. That's in process as well. I've asked for some deliverables in March for those two, so we can have a public meeting and open house and talk about what we're doing. Same with Brown Gym. We met with the architect a couple weeks ago, kind of walked through the space below, kind of gave them directions on the receivables for that. Again, March is their time frame. They'll be out again next week with their HVAC person to kind of look at the infrastructure in the basement of Brown Gym and see what's still being used, what's not being used, what we may have to repair, valves and pipes and those kinds of things to make sure that we're comprehensive when we look at the renovation down there. Some other big pieces as we go forward, we have to look at the campground phase 2 and figure out planning for that. We also have to figure out Damon Welch Park and some revisions to that. We're looking at John Paul Park. Pearl Park is important. John Paul and Pearl are actually fairly similar in their needs with electricity and lighting. So those are things that we need to identify and to start working towards this year as well. One big push we're going to have this year is we are going to methodically and systemically identify sponsorship opportunities. We're going to go out into the community. We're going to talk to people. We're going to talk to donors, find out what their interests are, what they want to support, and then we're going to create a matrix that identifies which donors for which programs. And so we're not just going after the same donors all the time for everything. We want to be more target specific and make sure that we're tapping into interests of the community and making sure that if they want to support the Parks and Rec Department, then they have the opportunity to do that in the areas that they want to support. So that'll be an initiative we're starting in January as well. Hopefully the next 3 months we'll knock that out and have a good framework for the year. Our challenges are no different than probably any place else is aging infrastructure, aging parks. We have lighting and scoreboard issues that are not cheap to fix. We will continue to have that until we can come up with kind of a big master plan and a capital plan on how to start working through replacement and repairs. I have a general idea of kind of the first domino to go, as we're looking at Rucker. For me, John Paul, the field at John Paul Park is critical, that we get that back up and running and in shape so that we can alleviate some of the nighttime stress at Rucker, because the expense of repairing the lights at Rucker now is getting to be a little bit too much, and we're having scoreboard issues as well. So, everything is connected. We've got to figure out how to fund those and make those repairs and start turning the corner from failing and aging infrastructure to updating and making things more current and modern. And so that's kind of my look at for this year. We're really excited about this year. We've got a lot of work to do, but everybody's energized, everybody's enthusiastic, and we're really looking forward to a really, really great year for the City of Madison Parks and Rec Department.
I'd just like to say thank you for getting the floor fixed at the Brown Gym for the walkers and the exercise people and the pickleball people. That was really important, and thank you for following through on that and to the completion.
You're welcome.
So did you say what the next step for Sunrise is? Or you gotta run that by? the
Well,
board?
right now, we are working on a few things. They would like some additional field work done by us to identify any valves or sprinkler heads that are missing, that were not picked up originally. We have an aerial now that we can look at and guess and go out and do some field reconnaissance to find out if we can find some things, just so they can plan when they're changing things and moving things. We know exactly where everything is. So that's on us to do right now. Right now, we have work going on with installing all of our new site furniture, which is trash cans and sandboxes and water coolers and our signs. Christian and the guys are working on that as we speak, so that's 18 holes of that improvement, so that's going on right now. But as far as the renovation goes, right now, it's really about, Brian is working on revising Plan B that we all agreed on with the topo, so he can understand how things may change. He's waiting on me for some additional inputs as to general ideas of what we'd like to see. I'll be specific as to, let's move number 6 green down the hill 30 feet, that kind of thing. Just so he has an idea of what we want the outcome to be. Of course, we've talked about lengthening the course and figure out where we can pick up those additional yardages. And so he's in the process of revising his plan, but waiting on a little bit of input from me, which I'll get to him tomorrow. And then we'll have probably more concrete information about 5 or 6 weeks. We'll see a revised plan at that point. Probably, I would say, for maybe February golf board meeting. We might have something then.
Sounds good.
Any other questions from the
No,
board?
thank you for a comprehensive report.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, we will open it up for public comments. If you would step to the podium, turn on the microphone, state your name and your concerns, questions, suggestions.
I'm Jan Vatrus. I live at 701 East 2nd Street in Madison. And I'm still confused how you decided to set the pass rates for the pool. I don't think you did any competitive analysis, but you must have done something to pick those numbers. You didn't just grab them out of the air. So could you explain that first, and then I will share some of your competitors' rates.
Sure. You were very nice to give us a spreadsheet you had done a couple years ago that showed competitive rates. This year I went through and contacted or went to the websites of all those, plus a few others, updated those costs and included those in that spreadsheet. We evaluated those and came up with what we thought were the appropriate season passes. Really, that's what we're talking about, is season passes.
Right.
For Madison. And not only and we can say we're comparing against our competitors, but we're having a brand-new pool. We're having an aquatic park. Our pool is gonna be superior to a lot of the pools that are out there and aquatic parks that are out there in our region. And so, honestly, $175 for a season pass is not that much money. So that's where we came up with
Okay,
the
well,
evaluation.
I beg to differ. North Vernon put in a new pool with splash pads and everything, and their season pass is, for a family of up to five, $90. The season pass for an individual is $40. Now, granted, their pool is several years old, but they upgraded and included all that splash pad stuff and everything. Columbus only charges $1 a day to get into their pool. I think from the work that we did earlier, the $5 probably is more comparable around, but I think that you have failed to take into account the community itself. We are not, despite the effort to make us so, a gentrified, wealthy community. We are still very much a community in need. And the pool was always a place that folks that could not afford air conditioning were able to come. In fact, we used to have a policy that if it was over $100, or $100 degrees, whatever it's called, when it feels like 100 degrees, the pool would be free that day. Because we knew that there were that many people in the community that did not have access to air conditioning. So it's a quality of life thing. And also, like I said, we've not found any comparable pools that are charging that kind of rate. I shared the information with some friends in Indianapolis. They thought that the $175 was the family pass rate, not the individual. They said, oh, $175, that's really reasonable, until I explained that was for an individual, and they said, you're kidding. So it is just not, and I guess the other thing is, do you not want to sell passes ahead of time?
I would love to have the volume that Indianapolis or Cincinnati would have at their pools, because if you have the volume, you can charge less.
Which is why we wanted to sell a whole bunch of passes, so we would get the volume. That was
Right.
the whole point.
And you can buy
We sold-
$85 passes for 20 visits. So we have 3 different structures
I
for our constituents: a $5 daily pass, $85 pass for 20 visits, or $175 for an individual pass. That's the structure. We have an $8 to $10 million pool that needs to be paid for, and we have to do it by creating revenue.
And $2.5 million of that was paid for by Bethany Legacy to help the health of the community.
Right, so that just leaves $8 million left to pay.
Right. But still, the point is that at this rate, you are not going to sell the number of pool passes that would actually help your fixed cost, which is a really disappointment. The last year you sold passes when they were raised to $120, you sold 6. The water aerobics, glad you're offering it. How does the $35 a month compare to the other senior exercise programs and the pickleball? What's that fee for a month?
There is no monthly pickleball fee. It's a $5 daily, or it's $110 a year.
Okay, a year for pickleball, 110.
Right.
For 3 months of water aerobics, it's gonna be almost 100.
$85.
Yeah. Do we see the discrepancy here?
There's completely different issues.
I don't think so. When it comes to exercise, for folks that are trying to do this for a healthy lifestyle, it is not.
We also don't pay instructors for pickleball.
I appreciate that. But it is just, your fees are not good. And then we were blindsided by the hours, and so I think there's some folks that want to talk about the inaccessibility of the pool for people who work.
That would be me. I work. I'm Stephanie Hellman. I have a shop on Main Street, and I'm open till 6. when am I gonna swim? Why would I buy a pass if I can't use it but on weekends? And why would, it's hard to imagine families that have the time to go swimming in the daytime during the week. We need more hours. If we're open till 8, we used to be open till 8, and there was a core group that was there every night, because, oh my gosh, how wonderful is it to be able to get out of work and go to the pool? And even if you just wanna float around, it's wonderful. So I would please strongly urge you to put evening hours in the pool, because that's the only time a lot of us can get there. And I work Saturdays, so I can't even go on Saturdays, so I would have one day to go if there were no evening hours. And I realize that a lot of it is an issue with staff. So I'm looking for your ad about lifeguards. And if I'm a lifeguard, I'll work evenings at the pool. Thank you. And thank you for all you're doing at the Senior Citizen Center. That's great stuff going on there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Jan, to give you an idea of how we came up with the numbers, we did the comparison. We had a chart that we shared. So we have approximately 14 weeks that will be open, 7 days a week. That's 98 total opportunities if you're a person that's gonna swim every single day. Now granted, there's gonna be weather, there are gonna be things, but 98. If you paid $5 daily fee 98 times, that is $490 if you're gonna be an everyday swimmer. And we're offering the everyday swimmer a pass for $175, and that comes out to $1.78 a day to swim. And we do not think that is outrageous. The passes are for people who are gonna go almost every day, 5 days a week minimum. They're not for the person that's gonna be a weekend swimmer like myself. Okay, so when you look at a $8 million pool and a pass is gonna charge approximately $2 a day to swim, we do not feel like that is outrageous. So that's kind of our numbers that we did to come up with that.
In this last month, I did inquire about the hours, and the way I was informed was we needed some hours for the programming. And so if we have the programming that's going on every day, I mean, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul one way or the other. So I don't know if there is a viable solution that will work for everybody. So, and then on top of that, I think there is a good point to be made to just kind of figure out how it's going to play out this first year, and then kind of work out the kinks the second year. We'll go from there.
And I think Scott pointed out at a earlier meeting that, this first year that we have the pool is going to be an opportunity for us to gather data so we can make decisions, informed decisions going forward. And I'm sure that's what will happen. I'm going to vote for the rates that we have, and I feel like there's enough options, just like there's enough options at the golf course. There's options with camping. There's options with everything that we offer for a price in the city, and I think there's plenty of options here at the pool. I may be wrong, but that's why I'm going to vote in favor. So.
Well, I just wanted to speak to the things you were talking about, programming. One of the beauties of Crystal Beach is it is a very big pool. So to think that you have to close the pool to have swimming laps, or you have to close the pool to have swim lessons, is beyond crazy. That was the beauty of Crystal Beach. We could have one section of the pool was for water aerobics, another section of the pool was for just family swimming. Think it is not a traditional pool. It is a very large pool. 968 people is what its capacity is going to be, reduced from 1,000. So to close the pool completely to the public because you're going to have some kind of program when the pool itself could be subdivided you really need to be thinking beyond what a traditional square pool could do. So with that said, I'll
Hello, everybody. My name is Nina Alcorn. I'm at 225 Wildwood Drive in Madison. I am here as a mother of teenagers. The 6 o'clock hours, that's one thing that I feel like could be revisited. Now, I don't have all of the information of what you're talking about in terms of programming, but I will say that for teenagers in this community, and I stood up here 10 years ago, like, trying to get, some additional park options for, toddlers and young kids. Well, here I am for teenagers now. And my son was a lifeguard last year, hopes to be a lifeguard this next year. There aren't a lot of options in the evenings, right? We've heard that as a quality of life issue over and over again. So having this opportunity to have this pool that's so state of the art is such a great opportunity for these kids, and to be able to access it beyond 6 o'clock, especially when it gets dark at 9 o'clock through the summer, is a great opportunity. So highly suggest revisiting that in some way, shape, or form, thinking outside the box around programming, whatever that might take. So there's that piece. The packages, I understand what you're saying, $1 a day. The problem is, in a community where the median income is around $49,000 a year, that upfront cost is the hardship. So I heard something about $85 for 20 visits. That, to me, is a little bit better. My kids like to go to the pool all the time. We have a guy in our neighborhood who allows us to use our pool, which has been our saving grace. But my kids have absolutely missed this. We will not, and I feel like we're higher than the median income, significantly higher than the median income. We will not pay that in terms of a pass, because we also pay for my younger son to do soccer, and we pay to drive my older son to Cincinnati to do zoo teams. Like, this is not the only cost facing families. So I'm very grateful to live in such a great community that looks at quality of life. That is the most important piece for so many people, especially kids, right? You learn through play. So these are great options. But I would encourage to make them as accessible as possible as well. There are ways, right, to think outside the box and pay for things. I don't know, maybe we can rent umbrellas. I'm happy to sit on any type of committee to brainstorm those options for additional financial resources. But to think about having this really great amenity right down the street from you or in your community, and as a child or a young adult not being able to access it, is concerning. So, and I don't think that's what we want for the kids in this community. So, having said that, happy to answer any questions or give any other feedback.
Well, Scott, can you go into the money that the Bethany Foundation gave to the Community Foundation that would kind of address the financial side of that?
Right, so what Bethany Legacy Foundation did when they gave money to the city for the pool, $250,000 was set aside for programming, is what they called it. Of that $250,000, Bethany has moved $100,000 to the Community Foundation as an endowment for what we'll call scholarships for underprivileged people who can't afford to go to the pool and pay for that. That endowment doesn't kick in for a couple of years, but what they also did was they took $30,000 and made it immediately available for this year. So we are working through River Valley Resources, who is going to be the administrator of those funds for scholarships for the pool. So those people, those families who are in need, can go to River Valley Resources, fill out an application, and receive a voucher, who can then go to the pool and use the pool with that voucher. And then at the end of the summer, River Valley Resources will pay the city back for whatever vouchers have been expended. So there are monies available for people who maybe can't afford a daily rate even, and all they just have to go through River Valley Resources. So we've already been working with them, trying to set up the system that will allow low-income families to utilize the pool and have access not only just the pool, But for programming, whether it's swim lessons or whatever it is we're doing, those resources will help pay for that through River Valley Resources. So there is a stopgap in there right now that's going to be active this year.
I would just like to add that I'm gonna vote for these, but because I think there's a lot of options. I think the $5 rate is very reasonable, and, you know, we can't argue that the family pass or the other passes are too expensive if we've got another option. If we didn't have those options, I think, you know, it'd be a stronger argument, but, you know, and the hours come down to personnel. You know, people have to work, I get that, and a lot of us do, but if we can't find enough lifeguards to man those extra hours, then it's not realistic. Hopefully we can, but that's a problem in most areas in today's world. But hopefully, I think they're getting on it early enough to find more personnel or lifeguards of different varieties. And that's one thing that has been brought up a number of times, and they're doing that. So I hope it works out, or there's something for everybody, but I think these rates are, it is an expensive pool, and it's a nice pool, and I hope it gets used quite a bit.
I'd like to add, because again, it comes down to personnel and resources as well. I reached out to the directors at Clifty, and we talked. They're going to open their pool this year. They've got some issues, but they're going to open their pool this year. And so we talked about, we don't want to compete with the other public pool in the county for the resources. And so we've talked about how we can work together to share resources, specifically lifeguards, because that's really the big key piece. And so that we can, you know, we schedule them for part-time at our place, and then they can schedule them for part-time at their place. Hopefully we have enough people together that we can work together as a pool, and so they can get the people they need, and we can get the people we need. We are much more about cooperation and collaboration than we are about competition. It's all about making sure we have the right resources in the right place, and the fact that we're out communicating to what some people would say would be our competitors. I don't look at them as competitors. I look at it as same common goal, same ideas, and how do we work together so we're not hurting each other, but we're helping each other. So we've had those conversations. We will continue to have those conversations so that we work together and we both have good outcomes.
And we are not voting on the hours tonight. We do appreciate your feedback on that. We are only voting on the rates, just to clarify that. So thank you for your input. Anything else before we vote? Anybody else from the public?
My name is Jarrett Boyd. I live at 111 East 3rd Street here in town. Is there, if a mother has 3 children during the day, do they all have to have a parent with them when they come to the pool? Let's say they're 10, 8, and 7.
So what we identified is anybody under the age of 9 has to have a parent or guardian. 10 and older can be by themselves.
Okay. So it would cost that mother $20 to come to the pool one day. And if they
Unless there was a scholarship opportunity.
Okay. But a lot of people might not be in great need, but to spend $60 or $75 a week to come to the pool is going to be a great deal more than they can afford in this day and time. And that concerns me a little bit. A lot of us who go to water aerobics, we can afford the $85. It's such a big jump from what we have been paying, and I understand we're going to have a paid instructor, which we've had a volunteer instructor for the past many years. So, you know, I can deal with that. But it really is of great benefit to the people of a certain age in our town and in our county. The other thing that keeps entering my mind, I did look at the new Albany water park rates, and I think their season pass, and it's been a while since I looked at it. It might have been $150 or $250. But what keeps coming into my mind is how many more passes you will sell at $250 than you're going to at $450. A family might jump at the $250. They're not going to jump at $450 because of the fact that the pool might not even be open past the first day of August, because it hasn't been being, that there will be bad weather days and so forth. But they're gonna sell more if you put it at 150 or 250 than you will at 450. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Peggy Fleurbaum. I live at 8090 Second Street downtown. First of all, I'm glad we're using fewer chemicals, or going to use fewer at the golf course. I would like to see some runoff lab resort reports sometime to see how much of those chemicals and pesticides are getting off of the golf course, if that could be worked into your program. As for the pool, I mean, it's unconscionable to me that you would start a capital project and not do a pro forma budget ahead of time to let people know that, hey, we're gonna spend all this money on bells and whistles, and you're gonna have to pay for it. I would like to have known that before this all started. I think a lot of us would have said, heck no, we had a fine pool before that. Just put in new cement or whatever so it doesn't leak. But we didn't really need the bells and whistles if we had known that you're gonna stick us with it at the end. And so if it's, I don't know if you can pull it off to have quality of life over profit, or maybe that's not our goal here. Maybe we are the city of profit. And I think we ought to make that clear so people know. See you in the pool.
I think we're in the business of keeping the pool open, with all due respect. So, once again, maybe we're wrong, and a year from now you all can come back and say, "Told you so." And if you do, that's great, and we'll make an adjustment. So, the $5 option is good, and maybe the family pass is a little high. I don't see us moving off of it tonight, though, unfortunately.
Is everyone comfortable going ahead and voting tonight on the rates?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then I shall make a motion that we approve the rates as we have presented last month and tonight for the Crystal Beach for the summer of 2024.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. At this time, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Oh, sure. Yeah.
Basically, I want to thank you for serving your terms and also for the terms that are coming up. Other than public safety, Parks and Recreation is our largest expenditure. The city is, and all municipalities across the state, is facing enormous pressure on their tax levies to support quality of life initiatives. And I think we've done a remarkable job of making tremendous investment across our community. And 2024 is not going to be any exception, because about a year and a half ago, the commission here approved the new Master Parks Plan, and that really is the guidebook for additional investment that needs to be made in our parks so that we can serve multiple generations, and do it in a way that creates sustainability. That is the key here. We do not want to have our enormous park infrastructure continue to suffer decline because of lack of investment. And the way you make that investment is you've got to have a good plan in place. You have to have the revenue that's going to support it, and there's going to be some experimentation along the way to make sure you get it right. It's never going to be 100%, acceptable to everybody in the community. But the key thing here is not to let the pool become the old Crystal Beach. And I do take a little bit of exception. There's a lot more invested in this pool than just a little bit of concrete. It is it's a $10 million investment in our community. Let's make sure it's still around 50 to 75 years from now for the kids and the adults and people that are visiting our community. I think we've got a good plan, but again, let's work on the rest of our park system too. In May, we're going to have a phenomenal ribbon cutting at Crystal Beach. The pool house is already open. That's getting a lot of use with the new event hall. And Scott and you all and the team are doing a good job planning out additional investments throughout our park infrastructure. But that's the key, is making it sustainable. Otherwise, we're just going to keep repeating the cycle we've been in, which is deterioration and dilapidation, and that's not good for the quality of life that we're trying to strive for our community. Thank you. But thank you guys for serving.
Anybody else? All right, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.